This is Chimes Media and I'm James Williams. Right, anti-Semitism. I just wanted to touch on that subject because Jeremy Corbyn has been labelled, if you like, by the American ambassador, if nothing else, as being an anti-Semite, and a few of the Jewish organisations have also taken that label. The Labour Party has clear problems with anti-Semitism, and any surprises? Well, no, there isn't any surprises there, because basically the Labour Party, in order to get lots of members, and I think they've got the largest membership for any party in Britain at the moment, because they had sort of cheap rate entries. But you're going to get a Muslim contingency amongst their membership. And there's been an historic hostility between Muslims and Jews. You know, it predates Labour and all the rest of them, and it's a historic animosity towards Jews. It says in the Quran, "Kill Jews." So, if you're going to have Muslim members of your party, then you can only expect there to be a certain amount of anti-Semitism, and it doesn't matter whether they voice it or not. It's going to come out sooner or later. So it's no surprise that the Labour Party have got problems with anti-Semitism. It's not going to go away. You know, you can't ride both horses. Okay, not all Muslims are going to be anti-Semitic, of course they're not. But if it's in the Quran, and you're a proper Muslim, you're following the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad, he's the ideal Muslim. If you're not going to go along with that, unless you're lying, then you're not really following Islam to its letter, are you? But you're going to have that problem. Now, what happened was there was MNSBC, one of the sort of fake media sites in America. What was his name? Mo Yeldon. I think he's an Egyptian-born commentator on MNSBC, and he was challenging Israeli ambassador Ron Dermer, and he basically started off by basically said the Anti-Defamation League, which is a dodgy left-wing organisation itself, but nevertheless reported a 57% increase in anti-Semitic attacks in the US, and he goes on to try and blame Trump for this. You know, Trump his family's made up half of Jews, isn't it? He's his son-in-law and his daughter, and they've got Jewish grandchildren and all sorts of things. So, you know, Trump, by his very family ties, how can he be anti-Semitic? It'd be ridiculous. But anyway, nevertheless, they come out with this garbage, don't they? This is the fake news for you, fake media. So the ambassador said that the anti-Semitism was a growing problem around the world before Trump became president, and went further by saying he was very pleased with Trump's statements against anti-Semitism in the wake of the synagogue attack. "I'm not aware of a single non-Israeli leader that has made such a strong statement in condemning anti-Semitism." That's what he said. Well, because he didn't like that. Yeldon, he didn't like that at all. He went on to play clips of Trump declaring himself a nationalist, and his post-Charlottesville statement saying that there were very fine people on both sides. Well, that was most people in America, I think, were quite happy with that statement. You know, so yeah, I mean, you've got to get. I'm not these days. I'm certainly not a left winger, but I recognise there are nice people in the Labour Party. There's nice people on the left. Of course there are. There's a nice Muslims. I'm against Islam, but I don't hate Muslims. I think there are nice people amongst them. Some very kind people, very respectful. So how can I hate them? But this is the thing, you see. So basically what Trump was saying is, you know, you got your Antifa bunch who go around throwing bricks and hitting people with bike locks and God knows what else. But they're not all like that. Some of them are nice people. And likewise on the right side of things, in the past, going back to my history, getting a bit old here now, right? I've come across National Front supporters, and individually they're really nice guys. I didn't ever join the National Front, but I found them very. I was curious because being a young guy, a teenager, whatever it is, I didn't know what it meant. What was it all about? And I understood what they were trying to say, what they're campaigning for. And some of it was a bit trendy because they thought, well, it's just being anti-establishment, so I'm, that sort of thing. But a lot of them were nice people. They were nice people. But this is the thing. There's this assumption that Nazism, anti-Semitism, is a right-wing thing. No, it's not. No, it's not. Let me just tell you, everyone on the right is unfairly called, a Nazi. Let me say, Nazi, the National Socialist German Workers' Party. National Socialist German Workers' Party. And as I understand it, national was the adjective and socialist was the noun, which meant the emphasis was on socialism. There's all number of quotes from Hitler about socialism, 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 all this stuff. The Nazism was a left-wing phenomenon. Let's give it philosophically, if you like, what it means. Right, politics is about the relationship between the state and the individual. You take the basic thing, bunch of individuals felt on their own, kind of isolated and weak, couldn't fight off, couldn't do hunting properly, couldn't fight off tribes of people on their own, so they formed together groups. And that was the formation of a basic state, a tribe, if you like. It was small to start with, and it grew into larger numbers and that sort of thing. So, and the more there were, generally speaking, the more powerful they were. And they could do more things. And that was your state. And then, of course, where does the individual fit in with that state? What are the responsibilities of the individual, the state, and vice versa, right? So that's what politics is about. Now, if you take left and right, and it basically comes back down to the 1789, the French Assembly, where this is where left wing and right wing were formed, if you like. One was conservative, and the other one was about revolution, that kind of thing. But it predates that. That's just the labelling of left wing and right wing. The whole idea of the left is pro-statist, and the right is pro-individual. That's the balance between the two. So if you get an extreme left-wing regime, then you're going to get nationalised industries. You're going to get state controls of everything, and the greater the state control, the more left-wing it is, and it ends up with a totalitarian state. Now, it doesn't mean to say it's nasty and horrible, but very often it is. We've seen tens of millions of deaths in the 20th century. We've seen the land grabs in Zimbabwe and South Africa, the land grabs off white people. That was state communism, if you like, taking over. Ends up with food shortages, and people eating cats and dogs in Venezuela and killing their own children, getting killed and stuff like that. That's what it ends up in a horror show. That's what happens when the state takes total control. On the right, it's about individualism. It's recognise individual characteristics and more of a meritocratic system. But if it goes to the extreme, you end up with anarchy. In other words, there's no state at all. They don't want any state control whatsoever, which again doesn't work out because you end up with the fitness of the strongest one in the jungle survives. So you want some kind of balance. You need to have some kind of state influence. Maybe the state can govern the rules of how we behave, that kind of thing. But if it starts interfering with everything you do, then you've got a more left-wing regime. Well, the National Socialists, the Nazis, they used the state to gain and control the German people, and then, of course, people outside of that. They were expansionist in nature, but it was a state. Everything was controlled by the state. What's the term? Fascism was a similar sort of thing, except that the Nazis had Jew hate because they see that the Jews controlled everything, controlled the world banks and everything else. So there's an anti-Jewish element there. That's the anti-Jewish bit. The Mussolini fascists weren't anti-Jewish. They were sort of the same kind of policies of being state control. And the thing is that with the fascists, as opposed to the communists take over everything. So there's no private industry. Fascism allows private industry, but it's controlled by the state. So you've got to produce 10,000 widgets this week. That's the order. We've decided to you know, what is needed. It's a state-controlled economy, you know, what of resources, rather than a laissez-faire, you know, a supply and demand basic stuff on that. You get to people like Mo Yeldin, and they gloss over stuff. They just want to see, you know, at the end of the day, they want the breakdown of society. They want us to be. If you get a totalitarian regime taking over, you try and throw that out. That is going to be really tough. That's a lot of pain and suffering, a lot of death, and very often it ends up going through a cycle, and it takes somebody at the top somewhere to say, hey, what we've been doing for the last, as in Soviet Union, last 70 years is kind of bad. Let's change things. So, you know, but in that meantime, lots of people suffer. So we do not want the left to take over. That is a bad thing, really bad thing, for everybody, because they start eating their own up as well. So don't think you're exempt. But, you know, you got the, Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, who called all Jews termites. Well, that says it all, doesn't it? Till next time.